We were lied to by the Bush administration.
It's an opinion. It's like
no, it's not.
I don't think we should have done any of these wars.
You don't go to war based on an opinion. You don't go on war saying, geez, I think they're doing that. That's what Donald Trump is doing. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of what I am talking about right now.
Just real quick, first of all, I do agree with pretty much everything of what you said in terms of Iran. And one of the biggest holdups I had with voting for Trump was I wasn't sure if he was going to go to war with Iran or not, because he always seemed to be very pro-war in Iran. But having said that, and I'm really trying to ask this question in good faith and not play whataboutism. But if Kamala did win, do you think she would have gone to war with Iran or wouldn't have, based on what's going on now?
Absolutely not.
And why do you say that?
Well, for starters, she didn't coddle to Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, that's number one. They didn't have the greatest relationship, but she was very frustrated with Benjamin Netanyahu. And I believe, as she believed, that they weren't doing everything in their capabilities and limiting the amount of civilian casualties. So that's number one. Donald Trump has never criticized Benjamin Netanyahu for anything. She has said time and time again that while Israel has the right to defend themselves, she has also said that they have a responsibility for limiting the amount of innocent casualties. Donald Trump has never said that on the record once, and he's never held Benjamin Netanyahu accountable for anything. I could also tell you that Harris, in my personal opinion, would never do what I believe Donald Trump is going to be doing tonight. But here's what I would ask you, David, in with respect in return. Donald Trump told people like you, and he sold on people like you, that there would be no new wars. The war in Gaza right now, war in Lebanon right now, war in Iran right now, war in Ukraine still going on. He claimed it was going to be over in 24 hours.
Well, those aren't new wars.
Donald Trump is the guy that said the war would be over in 24 hours. Look at what's been going on the last month in Yemen. We've been bombing them for the last month under Donald Trump's watch. Why do you not put any responsibility on him for that?
I do. And he's not anti-war like he said he is. And that, again, that is my always been my biggest gripe with him. But in terms of what you said with Kamala, I mean, she also said during her campaign that stopping Iran was one of her highest priorities.
There is a difference between saying you want to stop. Hold on, David, hang on. There's a difference between saying you want to stop something and what Donald Trump is allegedly saying today, that he is going to be bombing them. You do understand there's a far cry.
Well, here's my point. My point is, I'm not trying to make it about her, and I'm not giving him an excuse. I completely disagree with what he's doing. My point is, in terms of and this is just my opinion, obviously, in terms of these foreign wars, 95% of these politicians, red and blue, are the same person.
No,
they
I disagree.
all want to bomb these
No,
countries.
that's not
I know
true.
you disagree, and that's fine. But
name me five Democrats. Name me five Democrats right now that agree with Donald Trump if we go to war with Iran. Can you name me five?
No, I can tell you. I can tell you why. I can tell you why. It's because it's Donald Trump going to war with Iran. If it was a Democrat in office, they'd be supporting the war in Iran.
Completely disagree.
All of these politicians.
Completely disagree.
That's fine, but these politicians.
That's a hypothetical.
They're all addicted to war.
Well,
of course, it's a hypothetical. But we can base it on 20 years.
Here's what we know. You're making an assumption. Here's what we know. There are only a few Republicans that have come forward that have agreed that yes, we should go to war with Iran. Basically, it's Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. All these other Republicans will not say on the record they are in favor of this. So when you say 95%, I completely disagree with you on that assessment. Kamala Harris would not have gotten us into this war. I don't believe Joe Biden would have gotten us into this war. And he didn't, by the way. We were not at war with Iran. You could say right now, without the shadow of a doubt, if you combine Joe Biden and Barack Obama, Donald Trump has gotten us into more wars than both of them combined. That is the reality of the situation. He lied to you. He lied to America. He said that he was not going to start any new wars. He has, and he is. Would you call Donald Trump a liar?
In that context, yes, I would. But my point is I disagree. I mean, it's just a fundamental disagreement. You and I are not going to convince each other, which is fine. But I don't think Trump is any different from the majority of these politicians. They all are addicted to war because they're all beholden to the military.
All right, so they're all. Hold on a second.
Beyond.
Okay, so hold on a second. You
Sure.
think 95% of them are all the same. So do you think Kamala Harris would have ICE arresting people outside courtrooms without giving them any due process?
What I'm saying by
hold on.
The same,
Let's just go through it one by one because I want to get your opinions,
Sure.
David, because you made a statement. Now I want to see if that's the case. Let's talk about Kamala Harris for a moment.
Take it in context.
Okay, but hold on. You said 95%, and then you brought up Kamala Harris. You brought her up, not me.
Right.
So now I want to ask you a few questions. Do you think
Sure.
Kamala Harris would have ICE directing them to literally arrest people who are going and showing up to court trying to do it the right way and arresting them in public right outside courtrooms. Do you think Kamala would do that?
No.
Okay,
because it wasn't politically beneficial. For her to do that.
I don't think it's. Yeah, but I also think it's beneficial to go by our own Constitution, which should give people the right to due process. Do you think that Kamala Harris would hire somebody like a Dr. Phil and put them on ICE raids and get politicians like Kristi Noem to show up in her cosplay outfits? Do you think that's something that Kamala Harris would be comfortable with?
No, she
agree.
didn't support removing these illegals.
Yeah, okay. No. It's not about supporting removing illegals. It's removing illegals and sending some of them to El Salvador prisons without giving them due process, showing up in courtrooms when people are trying to do it the right way. That's the point that I am trying to make. Do you think that Kamala Harris, in her first 3 to 4 months in office, would be blaming all these FAA, all these crashes and the issues with helicopters and planes on DEI hires? Do you think she would do that?
I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it too. I think that's probably a pretty fair assessment. Do you think Kamala Harris would continue to give?
Can I explain? My point was, in terms of foreign wars, they're 95% of them are the same. I'm not talking about all these issues back.
Can you tell me the last time a Democrat? Can you tell me the last time a Democrat got us in an ill-advised war?
Well, I mean, look at Obama got us in all these ridiculous wars.
Which
in the Middle
one?
East,
Which one was ill-advised? Which war did Obama get us in that was an ill-advised war?
Well, what do you mean by ill-advised?
What George W. Bush did, saying that there were weapons of mass destruction, and we found Saddam Hussein in a hole with a pellet gun and a candy bar. That's what I would consider an ill-advised war, where thousands of American troops lost their lives, hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis lost their lives, and we were told that there were weapons of mass destruction. And the president of the United States at that time was George W. Bush. It wasn't a Democrat. It wasn't an independent. It was a Republican.
Also continued under Obama.
What do you mean it continued under Obama? George W. Bush got us into that war. The war in Iraq was not on Barack Obama.
And the war continued, the war in Afghanistan, war in Iraq, those things continued under Obama.
So you think that's the first day that Obama takes office, it should be a complete withdrawal? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say the first day, but
so why would you blame Obama? Who got us in an ill-advised war, Barack Obama or George W. Bush?
Bush. I'm not defending Bush.
Thank you.
You're trying to make the
name me an ill-advised war. Name me the last ill-advised war that a Democrat got us in, please.
I really can't name one.
Because it hasn't happened in my lifetime. That's why.
Off the same wars that the Republicans started, which is, again, they're all the same.
No, they're not. You can't name me.
Democrats continue.
With respect, David, you can't name me one ill-advised war that a Democrat has got us, and yet you're saying they're all the same. Right now, as we are speaking.
What about the intervention in Libya? Was that not significant?
Was that ill-advised? You're comparing that to the war in Iraq?
Ill-advised.
I just told you. We were told and we were lied to. We were lied to by the Bush administration.
It's an opinion. It's like
no, it's not.
I don't think we should have done any of these wars.
You don't go to war based on an opinion. You don't go on war saying, geez, I think they're doing that. That's what Donald Trump is doing. And I'm going to give you a perfect example of what I am talking about right now. Tulsi Gabbard testified under oath in March that Iran was not building nuclear weaponry. She testified under oath based on the intelligence that we had. And Donald Trump was asked about that yesterday on Air Force One, and he said he didn't care what she had to say. How on earth can you be comfortable with that? And can you name a Democrat that has ever spoken like that? Gabbard was under oath 2 months ago. Doesn't that mean anything to you?
Again, you're acting like Democrats are somehow better on a record of war.
Then name me an ill-advised. Then name me an ill-advised war that a Democrat has got us in my lifetime. You still haven't done it.
See, again, you're using the term when they started because it's convenient because Democrats didn't start it, but they continue.
Do you understand that there's nobody in their right mind in the middle of a war that would just immediately, the day they take office, withdraw troops? That is a ridiculous thing to say.
I didn't say the day they take office.
Then what is your criticism? I don't understand what you're saying. Republicans are the ones that get us into these wars, and Democrats are always the ones that have to clean it up.
No, that's absolutely not true.
Then give me one war that started. Then give me one war that started under a Democrat. I'm asking you now for a fifth time, and you can't do it.
I just told you, I answered you multiple times. They didn't start any of the wars, but they still continue them for years and years after saying,
you don't understand.
They're all the same.
You don't see. No, they are not all the same.
Yes,
because,
they are.
No, they
yes,
are not.
They are.
Because you are conflating in the middle of a war when a Democrat is in office in continuing the war, because there's not one reasonable person that would withdraw troops after all the innocent lives that have been lost and the money that was put into a war. And you're conflating that with a Republican like a George W. Bush and a Donald Trump now that is getting us into an ill-advised war. Let me tell you something. There is no intelligence based on Tulsi Gabbard from 2 months ago that would state that Iran is building their nuclear capabilities. This is a war between Israel and Iran. We should not be in it. I know you agree with me, but yet you won't admit that you made a mistake voting for this lunatic. That's what drives me nuts.
I told you, yes, I do regret voting for him because of the war in Iraq.
Okay, I appreciate
this war in Iran. That was my personal red line with him.
I appreciate you saying that. So let me ask you another question. If the election was tomorrow, based on what you know now, between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, who do you vote for?
I wouldn't vote.
But
if I had to vote, you're saying if I had to vote?
Yes, sir.
Well, I would vote for Trump, and I can tell you why. Can I tell you why?
I'm listening. Go ahead.
Sure, because I really believe that regardless of who was in office, they all still would have gone to war with Iran and stayed in Israel and stayed in Gaza. You may disagree with that. That's fine. But I don't think that any of these politicians would have done anything differently. So I would have voted based on what they're doing back at home. Now, you obviously don't like what they're doing back, in the U.S., but I would prefer what Trump is doing relatively compared to what Kamala would have done. But in terms of war,
what would Kamala have done?
Well, she for sure would not have closed the border. We still would have thousands of people coming into the country like we did during her and Biden's administration.
We still have thousands of people in this country
at a fraction of what it was.
Okay, and we also have people that are, obviously this doesn't bother you, people that are being deported with no due process. But you always go back to the immigration issue. But that's what a lot of these MAGA Republicans.
It's the second biggest issue.
Well, Donald Trump was president for 4 years. How come he didn't fix it then?
You're talking about during his first term? He effectively did. It was relatively sealed.
Then why is it that no, it wasn't. Why is it that the overwhelming majority of people that are in this country are those that overstay their visas, but yet Donald Trump hasn't addressed that issue?
Well, overstayed their visas from what time? And also that's because that's a much harder issue to tackle than it is for people who just came into the country illegally, and you can deport them relatively quickly.
So you're okay with people not getting due process. Many of these people are nonviolent criminals. So you think Trump is doing a great job with border security and at the border, but you care about border security. But then again, on the other hand of things, let's start some ill-advised wars, the mess that's going on in the Ukraine, people not getting due process in this country. Apparently you're totally okay with people that are getting...
No, I'm not totally okay with that. I disagree.
People getting arrested outside of people that are doing it the right way, that are going to the courtrooms, that are trying to do it the right way and become legal citizens. You're okay with them being separated from their families?
No, I don't.
So why would you praise Donald Trump? So why would you praise Donald Trump for immigration policy then, if you're not okay with that?
Because it doesn't have to. Because you're not going to find a politician that you 100% agree with everything.
Can you name me the last Democrat that? Can you name me the last Democrat that defied our Supreme Court and defied our Constitution, please?
No, I really can't.
You can't. Okay, the reason why I say that, David, the reason why I say that is because the Supreme Court ruled 9-0. Donald Trump defied the Supreme Court. And by the way, in our Constitution, it says any person, not any documented or undocumented immigrant, any person. Donald Trump has defied our Constitution. He's defied the Supreme Court. He attacks judges, and you just want to say, well, immigration. He's done a good job on immigration.
To my understanding, he's using the Alien Enemies Act, which is allowing him to deport citizens.
It says in our Constitution, any person. He is literally changing the verbiage in our Constitution. You know that, David. You know that. You can't be okay with that. You can't be okay with people in this country that have lived here for decades, that pay their taxes, that are nonviolent criminals, being sent to El Salvador prisons. You can't be okay with that, David. Don't tell me you're okay with that.
Well, wait a second. There's context to that. If those people are here illegally, I'm in support of them being deported, not being deported to an El Salvador prison.
Okay, well, that's what Donald Trump has done.
And I disagree with that. I disagree. Look, if I had to criticize every single thing Biden did, I'm guessing you wouldn't say you 100% supported everything he did.
Can you please give me an example where Joe Biden defied our Supreme Court and defied our Constitution, and then I'll absolutely agree with you. Please give me an example.
No, I can't.
You can't.
I
You know
can't.
why? Because Joe Biden didn't do that. That's why. I'm giving you specific examples of how Donald Trump defies the Supreme Court and defies our own Constitution, and you're trying to make a comparison to Joe Biden. I didn't agree with everything Joe Biden did, but the difference is Joe Biden didn't.
You're not going
Joe
to agree with
Biden wasn't above the law, and he didn't have immunity, okay? And he was giving people the right to due process.
His family apparently did.
I'm sorry, what?
His family apparently did when he pardoned them.
What did his family do? What did they do?
Well, apparently nothing, but he pardoned them anyway.
What did they do, though? What did they do?
Apparently nothing.
Okay,
and he
you're right.
Pardoned them anyway.
You're right. No,
not
apparently. Members of his family were not charged with a crime other than Hunter Biden during Joe Biden. Donald Trump is the guy that pardoned a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists, some of whom beat police officers with their own batons. If you want to talk about pardons, why don't you bring up those pardons? Doesn't that bother you, David? Why is
You've asked me that question before.
Why is it that
it's not black and white? I agree that some should be pardoned and some shouldn't. Almost every single issue, I'm going to disagree with Trump and agree with Trump based on the situation. It's that simple.
Based on the situation. So you think the situation calls for people not getting due process?
No, I don't. But here's what I'm saying in regards to that is they have to deport millions of people. A lot of mistakes are going to be made, which I disagree with.
It's not a mistake.
Are correct.
Sir, with respect, it's not a mistake when you send people to one of the most maximum security prisons in the world on a hunch because they have tattoos. That is not a mistake. It is called, simply put, breaking the law and breaking our own Constitution and what our forefathers told us that we should or shouldn't do. A mistake is when you lock your keys in your car. A grave mistake, in my personal opinion, is you voting for Donald Trump. That's a big mistake. A bigger mistake is Donald Trump not giving people the rights to due process. You try to keep making correlations between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden and the Democrats to what Donald Trump is doing. There is no correlation. George W. Bush got us into an ill-advised war.
I'm talking about strictly in terms of war.
And George W. Bush got us into an ill-advised war. You couldn't name me one war that a Democrat started. Right now, Donald. As we speak, because you have no idea what the logistics are when you are in the middle of a war. You have no idea, and there is not a comparison between withdrawals and attempting to try to get out of a war, which can take years, in some cases even decades, than who started the war. George W. Bush started the war, and right now, make no mistake about it, Donald Trump is starting a war with Iran.
Yeah, but also, Brian, George Bush started the war, but he also had pretty much the entirety of Congress backing him, both red and blue.
Because it was based, by the way, it wasn't,
war.
First of all, it wasn't the entirety, number one. And number two, they lied to the American people. They lied. And they said there were weapons of mass destruction. I believe Donald Trump is lying. And tonight he will lie. I'm sure he will address the country tonight. And he will lie. And he will tell them that they are building nuclear capabilities. And I tell you right now, based on Tulsi Gabbard and what she said under oath a few months ago, that was not true. And how interesting that Tulsi Gabbard wasn't at the meeting the other day. Very interesting. I appreciate the call, David. Lady D on the YouTube super chat says, it all comes back to oil. Trump asked OPEC to cut production, and they said no. American oil companies are complaining they're losing money. War always disrupts and raises the price of oil. Well, I agree with you, Lady D. I think that certainly could be one reason why Donald Trump is doing this. If you're just joining us, the breaking news, it appears as though Donald Trump is going to war with Iran. That means America is. And apparently it's going to be starting tonight, according to our own media and media in Israel, and Iran is prepared as well. Let's go to Jay. Jay is next up on PTL. What's going on, Jay? Hi,
Hello.
Jay. Hi, Jay.
Hey. So, I have a question. So, about the no due process, if that really was the case, like I saw a film where like the slaves, were fighting back against the captain of the ship, and the captain was going to go south, but instead they went north. And the court still testified them.
What do slaves on a ship have to do with undocumented immigrants, some that are seeking asylum and some that have lived here for decades being deported?
I guess what I want to say is like the courts could I forgot what the documentary was called, but the courts could have not given the slaves due process, but
You are
because,
comparing the courts and slavery to what is happening now in the United States of America? That's the analogy, with respect, sir. That's the analogy that you're trying to make. People who owned human beings to immigrants today in the United States of America, legal or not. And do you think that's a fair analogy in comparison?
no. I guess what I'm trying to say is,
What are you trying to say, sir? Take a deep breath.
okay. I guess what I want to say is, I'll go on to my other points. So, I actually can't believe that the Democrats were shot like that. Like,
It's horrible, but guess what? What do you think about Republicans like Mike Lee who are making jokes about it? What do you think about people on the
it's just
right?
crazy.
I agree with you. We agree. What do you make of Donald Trump putting out one brief statement and nothing more, not saying anything else? What do you make about that?
Oh, well, what I have to say is, sorry, I have autism.
You're okay, sir. You're fine. We're kind of up
I'm
against the clock
still
here because
processing.
that's okay. We're up against the clock here, so it's kind of towards the end of the show. But I think we
Okay.
I think we fundamentally agree, and I do appreciate you calling in, by the way, my friend. I think we fundamentally agree that what took place in Minnesota is disgusting. So let's leave that one on a good note. Let's go to Oscar. Oscar's next up on PTL. Hey, Oscar, what's going on?
Yes, the topic. I'm sorry, I started late listening to the
Did we just?
the way these guys were talking. The two prior to me,
Yeah.
they were not very bright. I mean, not to insult them, but the other one, seems to be confusing. I didn't even know what's the topic about, and then we can talk about.
Yeah, we got to move on to the other caller, my friend. You'll have to call back. I can't review the topics because we're up against the clock, Oscar. Please call back again tomorrow. Let's go to Adam. Adam is next up on PTL. What's up, Adam?
Well, this is Alvin, not Adam.
Okay, sorry about that. Go right ahead.
I'm trying to get your radio station so I can listen to you. The only way I can listen to you is call in and listen to you're talking to all these other people because you're not on Facebook anymore. I can't find you on YouTube. So what is your radio station number?
So just to give you the quick rundown, we are absolutely on YouTube. It's at PTL Radio Show. I would also say go to my website, which is pushingthelimits.live. We are absolutely on Facebook. We are still part of the Occupy Democrats Network. But I would say the best place to watch me, sir, would be on our YouTube page, which is at PTL Radio Show. I hope that helped you, sir. And if you have any issues, you're welcome to email me and we'll try to help you out. All right, let's get back to the phone calls real quickly here. Who are we going to next here? Let's see. Let's go to Adam. Wait, did we just have Adam? I think we just had Adam. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next on PTL. Do we not have Dave? Okay, Dave. What's going on, Dave?
I'll make it quick, all right?
Yep.
2 points.
Yep.
One, remember when he went on the escalator, and then the first thing that he said that he didn't want wars on the Trump Tower. Remember he went up on the golden escalator?
Yes.
And he basically said that he was against the war?
Yep.
Okay, that's for you all cockroaches, for people that of a brain. That he was up there. He was against all the wars. Number two, so, I can't get over this. I mean, that guy wore me out, and as far as I'm concerned, you know what's going to happen? I won't be surprised, and I'm praying to God it doesn't happen. But these other countries that do business economically with Iran, they're going to get pissed. They're going to get pissed, and I won't be surprised that they're going to join in because it's going to hurt their economy because they do business with Iran.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So they're not going to back down. So I'm not going to support. You watch what happens, people.
You're right. You're right. There are huge ramifications, my friend. You're right. There are huge ramifications. What happens, and I believe that this will start tonight, based on all the reports that I'm hearing. Credible reports, CNN, CBS, Israeli media, everywhere. The Wall Street Journal are all reporting that Donald Trump will be entering this war. We are going to war with Iran. He promised all of us, and you MAGA people believed him. I never believed a word that he said, but you all did. The U.S. will be striking Iran. This is according to Western sources who spoke with Khan News. Iran is prepared. They're going to be attacking us as well. I am sure of it. And these are dangerous times that we are living in, ladies and gentlemen, and I cannot believe it. So I want to thank my sponsors, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. They have a great gas promotion. We all need free gas, especially after learning about this war that apparently is going to be taking place in Iran, the United States being a part of it. If you earn 100 points on a slot machine, you're entered into an electronic drum to win a $100 gas card. Check them out, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. This is also an independently owned radio show. So what do I mean by that? Well, we rely on good people like you to support what we do here at PTL. So please, pushingthelimits.live, make a donation, $5, $10, $20 a month. We're also, of course, in the YouTube Super Chat. Special guest on the show tomorrow who worked in the Joe Biden administration. Daniel Coe is going to be joining us tomorrow, and we are going to be talking about the strong possibility that we are now in officially a war with Iran. Check out my website, pushingthelimits.live. We appreciate you guys for joining us. Thank you, PTL Nation. We'll be back at it tomorrow. Daniel Coe, who worked in the Joe Biden administration, joining us. See you tomorrow, everybody. Same time, same place. Have a great day.